Hello, Chicken Fillets here, and today on JRPGs and Me, a brand new series talking about, well, JRPGs. And in this, I like to get someone on to know them a bit better and to know about their JRPGs and their lives. So, first guest on this will be Colin Lack. How are you, my fine sir?
I am good. How about you?
Super duper after getting through all these technical difficulties to get this actually started.
Yeah,
But
it's funny how the simplest solution was just to move it to Zoom.
absolute pain in the backside. So, for those who are unaware, Colin Lack is a YouTube content creator. He is also on Twitch and he's also writing his own novel at the moment. Now, Colin focuses on gaming news and also JRPGs and fighting content. What I mean by fighting content is the likes of your Tekken games, etc. Would that be a good description of yourself, Colin?
It would be, though I also have a focus on platformers and Sony exclusives because I'm a PlayStation gamer at heart.
I also know that you are a big Spyro fan as well, because you are teasing. Well, you think that there's going to be a new Spyro game coming out in well, an announcement coming in October.
Yeah, because there's been like leaks on Reddit and a whole bunch of other things, so I'm just kind of following the lead. In journalism, if it leads, it leads.
I have never heard that phrase before, but that is utterly fantastic.
It's kind of a gallows humor for journalism. Basically, if you want to get a news story, find someone that's been murdered.
Well, I mean, you've heard it here first. So another point is that Colin has been on many of the collaborations on my channel. I've collabed on his channel as well. So I thought it'd be great to actually have my first episode getting Colin in. Now, I discovered when I started YouTube, it really kind of opened the doors for finding new channels instead of, your big channels. I know I still watch some of these bigger channels, but really, when you start your own YouTube channel, you start to see the grassroots community. You start to see smaller YouTubers, and you start to see a lot of passion. And I remember coming across your channel. I'll be honest with you. I think it was probably a Trails related video. Trails into Cold Steel, something along those lines. And I remember that and subscribing. And I actually said to you in the chat that I had hit the notification bell, and you'd said that I was one of the first people to tell you that.
You were actually the very first who wasn't one of my close friends in real life or that I haven't known online for years and years.
Well, there you go. Small world, is it?
Yeah.
And now we are here. But speaking about here, we are going to be talking about JRPGs. So I've got a list of questions here just to kind of gather Colin's love of JRPGs and his sort of, how would I say it? His sort of rounded. Why am I saying rounded? His outlook on JRPGs. So, for example, with myself, a lot of people will know that I have a love for Final Fantasy VII and my action JRPGs overall, but Colin's could be completely different. So we're going to gauge where Colin sits on the JRPG fence. So, are you ready for your first question in JRPGs and Me?
I am, yes. Let's crack on.
Well, let's get an easy one out the way. So, what is your favorite JRPG? Now, I'll break this into two bits, right? Let's say your favorite JRPG of all time. Now, that's actually quite a hard one. And I'll break it into a secondary point is your favorite JRPG series as a whole.
Okay, I can actually tell you it's going to be kind of the same for both answers, but I can also give you an honorable mention if you'd like that.
On you go.
All right, so for the honorable mention, Lunar Silver Star Harmony for the PSP.
Oh, class. That is an utter class game.
So, fun story about me and Lunar Silver Star Harmony, actually. I had kind of played JRPGs before because I was into Pokemon when I was really, really young, and I'd been trying to find something that was marginally similar. Basically, I just wanted turn-based combat. That was what I wanted, but when I tried to explain what I was looking for to the EB Games employees, now GameStop, they looked at me like I'd spreaded 2 extra heads. So I kind of was talking to my buddy, and I'd just gotten a PS Vita, and he's like, you need more games for it. So he gifted me as a late birthday present Lunar Silver Star Harmony on the PS Vita store.
That is epic.
And that was kind of like, the only other JRPG I'd really played to that point in time was Folklore. So basically, I'd found the genre that I'd been hunting for almost 15 years at that point in time.
Nice.
And then as for my favorite actual JRPG, that would be The Legend of Heroes, Trails into Reverie, and that would be my favorite series of all time.
I was thinking it was going to be that, but I had to give the benefit of the doubt. So,
yep.
Trails into Reverie is the latest release. Well, actually, no, I'm not right.
It's the latest until next summer. Well, okay, Nyota's a spinoff, so I don't really count it.
Trails into Reverie.
But Kondo has said that Nyota is going to play majorly into the story going forward, so that's kind of interesting.
Wow. Oh, that'll be good. Well, Trails into Reverie is the most recent release I've played from the Legend of Heroes series, and I have completed. I believe last time we spoke about it, you're still playing through at the moment.
Yeah, I'm at the castle in Michelin Wonderworld.
So it's a hard one talking about Trails games because there is so much depth in the stories. You see something and it could spoil whole heaps of stuff.
I've accidentally done that to friends before, and they've told me to not so politely do something.
Yeah, I can just imagine. So I'll tail off with this then. So what actually made the Legend of Heroes series actually your favorite? What was it that drew you into this to make this your favorite sort of JRPG?
Okay, so I'll have to tell you a little story if that's okay.
Of course it is.
Okay, so the same friend who got me into Lunar, I did some photography work for him when he graduated from like high school, but like graduated way late, so it was like the general education diploma instead of like a traditional high school one. Anyways, he hired me to shoot the graduation ceremony, which I did happily just because I had nothing else to do. I wanted to test out my new camera, so it kind of worked out, and he wanted to pay me, so he offered to give me an extra copy of the Lionheart edition of Cold Steel for the PS Vita.
It's epic.
Yeah, and then basically I played it. I was hooked because Reen is a character I highly identify with, and basically I marathoned it. I didn't realize I was missing side quests because I was so addicted to the main story, because I didn't know that Trails had hidden quests at the time, and then basically I completed that in a 80-hour mad dash, and I was like, oh my god, at the ending. And I was like, okay, to eBay we go, and I bought a copy of Cold Steel 2 on the Vita the same night that I completed Cold Steel 1, and it came about a week later, and that was a very painful week, as you can imagine.
That ending, yeah, especially with the ending of Cold Steel 1, it just leaves it at a complete cliffhanger, because it goes from like 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds flat, that whole ending section.
Yep.
So yeah, I could imagine.
Which is a staple for the Trails series, if you've noticed.
Yeah, just a wee bit. That's fantastic. That's a fantastic answer there. I will say, on my own experience with Reverie and Trails, so like my background with Trails is I started off with Cold Steel, similar to you, and it was because of YouTube videos, because I have it on the PS Vita, and it was one of these games where I kept on seeing it pop up on different likes of lists of PS Vita games you should have or RPGs you should have for your Vita, and I eventually got it. And again, it was like I've had to go. We have a shop in the UK here in Scotland called CEX.
I'm
And
familiar with it. I've actually been when I visited family.
oh, right, okay. I remember you've got family over here.
I actually hold dual citizenship, so.
So I remember getting Trails of Cold Steel 2 straight away on there. Now, it wasn't until I got a Nintendo Switch, like, because I know like the Trails of Cold Steel 3 had gone onto PlayStation 4, but I had avoided it because like my playstyle is mainly handheld. So I waited until the Switch release for 3 and 4. Like I remember the direct where they showed only in a brief snippet, because they do like in the Nintendo Directs they have like also coming, and it's like 5-10 second blasts of information of like certain games. I saw that,
which kind of annoys me. The 5 to 10 second blasts. It's like, what was that? I didn't see it.
you blink and it's gone. I would say out of all the Trails games that I've played, my most Trails into, I'm looking at my shelf just now to get the name because it's Trails to Azure. That's probably my favorite one that I have played thus far. There was some shortfalls with Reverie for me, but that's I can go into that in another day. But I'll go into my next question. I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask it. Turn-based combat or action-based combat?
I much prefer turn-based combat because I find it much more relaxing, but I have nothing against action combat because I love the East series.
Yeah. So that's a good way of putting it. When I was growing up, the combat I preferred was turn-based because you got used to it through Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. So I enjoyed that. Whereas nowadays, I'm more in the fence of action-based combat, and it's mainly just down to my time management, basically, because like I've got limited time to do my gaming, so doing turn-based can sometimes be. Although the battles don't really realistically take that long, sometimes it can take a bit longer than you want.
Yep, but that's one thing that I do like about turn-based. If I get distracted and have to drop the game, I can just drop my console into rest mode and pick it back up really quickly and easily later on. Though I bet you're really excited for Trails Through Daybreak because it's going to have a hybrid system where you can choose between wanting to play it action or wanting to play it turn-based.
Yeah. I mean, that's gonna be pretty cool. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays via action.
It plays very similar to an East game, but with the option to cast spells.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. You see, I've not really been looking into it too much because obviously it's got 2 games now out in Japan.
Yep.
And we're in the first one now, so I'm just afraid of searching it and getting hit with spoilers.
I have a friend in Japan who has actually played it, so I actually got that little bit of info that it plays like East with magic through them.
Oh, that'll be good. The next question for you, this will be a controversial one. Least favorite JRPG?
Funny you should mention that because we are actually doing a collaboration on that very soon.
Yes, we are indeed. So this could actually be a spoiler.
It will be a spoiler, but I'll spoil it anyways because self-promotion.
Yeah.
It's going to be Scarlet Nexus.
Oh, I didn't expect Scarlet Nexus. Okay, explain why.
Cliff Notes version, basically, I found the combat couldn't decide if it wanted to take inspiration from the Souls-like games like Code Vein, which the developer had previously worked on, or if it wanted to be a twitchy action-based game.
Yeah, I can kind of get that.
So it was kind of like, it found the worst middle ground possible for me, and it kind of just... I raged quit.
Well, my my one this year. I mean, my least favorite JRPG of this year thus far was Fire Emblem Engage. But again, spoilers. So I'm not going to go fully into my reason why, because Colin has got a collaboration coming out very shortly on his channel. So yeah, I want you to keep an eye on that coming out. There'll be lots of content creators that you may know of, may have seen on my channel on this collaboration. So you'll want to keep an eye out on Colin's channel
And a
for
few
that.
that you won't have seen yet either.
Yeah. So keep your eyes on Colin's channel. Now, another one. Now, we'll link back to Trails into Daybreak. So there was actually going to be what is 2024 in general is looking amazing. And now you put out a tweet or a post on YouTube, one of the two. I think you put
I
out
did
saying
both.
that. There you go. So it was saying that 2024 could be the best year in gaming thus far.
Yep.
So there is loads coming out. What is the most what JRPG are you looking forward to the most, or generally what game are you looking forward to the most next year?
I got two answers for that. So for
Oh.
like just general gaming, Tekken 8,
Cool.
because fighting game content creator, it goes hand in hand. Also, I much prefer 3D fighters to 2D fighters, and Tekken 8 does everything that I love in a 3D fighting game. It actually feels the most like my favorite 3D fighter of all time, Dead or Alive 5 Last Round.
Nice.
And for the JRPG side, it's going to be Trails Through Daybreak, because Trails, it's my favorite series.
I thought you were just going to leave us there. Well, it's Trails. Yeah, I mean that announcement had a lot of people very excited. What I was really excited about when that trailer came out, was that the fact that it's coming to Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it came out on Switch very quickly for Japan, if I remember correctly. So it's already, yeah. So I think it's already out on Switch in Japan. So I think it was just a case of, okay, we don't need NIS America to port it for us. Just get it out.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Because here's something that's really interesting. If you look at Falcom's like business deals and their business reports every year, their games have to come out on PlayStation first. And here's something else that's kind of interesting. Sony does own a very small stake in Falcom.
That's another point I did not know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'll let you have one guess what my my most hyped game for 2024 is going to be.
It's going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
To the surprise of utterly nobody. That game I will be sat on for the longest time. That one, I mean, if you're a friend of the channel, you will know that I absolutely love Final Fantasy VII, the Final Fantasy VII remake. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is shaping up to be huge. I mean, the new trailers which are coming out all the time. The most recent information dump that we had after TGS was just outstanding.
I am super excited for that. Also, just to quickly backtrack to Trails Through Daybreak, I called it in my TGS prediction video. If you saw that or not, I don't know if you have.
No, I did. You did. You were right.
Yeah, and people were calling me a feckin' idiot.
Why?
Because they were like, there is no way anything interesting is coming out of this Falcom announcement. It's just going to be the announcement of 3 and 4 coming to PS5.
You see, I think your mindset, the folks' mindset, is just a bit weird. You know, if you make a prediction, then so be it.
Yep.
I like, because I put out a prediction video for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth about 7-8 months ago. And some of the things I predicted, folk were like, "Oh no, 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 that's silly," blah blah blah. And it's like I've already had a few of my predictions come right. You know, so like Chadley was one of my predictions. Yep, he's back. Some of the materia, I said like some of I mentioned that some of the summon materia wouldn't come back, and so far there's one or two which are bonus DLC things coming up, but in general, there's nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so yeah. Here's another one. Here's another question. So, how do you prefer to play your JRPGs? Now, what I mean by this is, I am a handheld gamer. How do you prefer? Do you prefer playing on PC, console? You know, which way is your preferred method of playing?
Console for sure. I buy the Trails games on PS4, PS5.
Mhm.
Though I will be honest, I would have probably preferred Zero and Azure if I had a Switch.
Yeah.
I love Azure. It's like my third or fourth favorite Trails game of all time. But you know, there are certain games that just feel better on handheld devices, and I feel like being able to pick up and go with Zero and Azure was probably more fitting for the style of game that they were.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say, well, I remember when I think it was either Azure or Zero when they came out. I think there was comparison videos, and apparently the Switch version ran better than the PS4 version, which I found pretty funny.
Yeah, it was because NIS America's in-house team was just more focused on making that closer to the PC version, whereas they
Mhm.
were just like, okay, straight port because it's already done for the PS4. So there weren't some of the quality of life improvements.
Well, let's just hope that Daybreak's going to run well on Switch and all the. I would hope that the likes of the PS4, PS5 editions will run well. Um, so yeah,
I
I
can tell you
think
from the Japanese version of Daybreak on the PS4 that it runs a little bit rough, but that's because the engine that they developed was actually more intended for PS5 and forward. So it
so.
pushes PS4 quite hard.
So will you be getting on PS4 or PS5?
I've already pre-ordered my collector's edition for PS5.
Oh, are these collector's editions? Are these like the massive? But I've seen likes of Public Enema. You'll know he does unboxing videos of like of Falcom games.
I will send you a link on Discord so you can check out the collector's edition and live react.
Oh wow! So are you going to when you do get your collector's edition? Are we going to see an unboxing on the channel? Maybe.
Probably not.
Oh, come on. Well, I'll tell you what, though.
I didn't do one for Reverie. So
I think the collector's editions though that they do Falcom do are pretty nice. I mean, I can't say I've got any collector's editions. The closest I have to any sort of collector's editions is Final Fantasy VII Remake, but that was just a deluxe version. Like if I'd said to my wife, oh, I'm gonna. I think it was Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. He got like a statue of Sephiroth, and I saw the price of it. I could imagine going to my wife. Oh, do you mind if I spend like 350 quid on this? On this, I'd be handing my divorce papers pretty quickly.
I sent you the link for the Reverie one. I mean, the Daybreak, sorry.
I'm gonna have a quick gander, see what that looks like. Oh wow, that is so. Book comes in the big box, steel case, CD. Now this is the thing you get. The CDs are pretty cool that you get with it because with the normal Trails games, like the Switch games, they always have like a digital code.
Yep, you get the digital code plus this, but here's the sad thing: it's not the full soundtrack.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare that. But you can get most of the tracks offline on YouTube, etc. So you can always listen to them on there.
I do plan on getting the CDs for Cold Steel 1 through 4 plus Reverie, though. Like the proper full soundtrack, because I have a Bose Wave radio and I collect CDs and I like using my very expensive CD player.
Because I remember seeing recently the Xenoblade Chronicles box, which had I think it was every single Xenoblade Chronicles game, including the DLCs, like in one massive box with, I think it was like 8 to 10 CDs worth. Did you see that at all?
I did not. But I can say this, you probably appreciate the fact I've got a Bose Wave radio since you're a musician.
Yeah. I can imagine the sound quality on that is immense.
It is. I've actually had my folks tell me, turn that down quite often.
And you'll be like, no, up it goes, up it goes. They can listen to the soundtracks from Trails of Cold Steel 1. Actually, I'm going to throw this in as a bonus question for you, right?
All right.
Because we're talking about music, right? So I was going to say, what's your favorite sort of video game soundtrack? But I can imagine it will be along the lines of Trails of Cold Steel, right?
It's Cold Steel 3.
Really? Really? So Trails of Cold Steel 3 has the best soundtrack?
Yeah, because it's got the most diverse soundtrack out of the bunch, I find. It's got a lot of battle themes that are distinct to Cold Steel 3, but it's also got songs like Pancakes on the Way Home from School, Start Line, which is actually kind of my channel's theme song because Falcom is amazing and they let content creators actually use their music as sound beds if you're making content that's somewhat related to Trails or East.
Yeah. So for me, it's always between if we're doing it Trails related. For me, it's either the first Cold Steel or the last Cold Steel, because there's some utter bangers of metal tracks in it for some of the battle music in 4. Well,
I love that too. We're both metalheads, so that's something that we connected over quite quickly.
And the likes of Cold Steel 1 has a lot of more varied tracks with it. It's got, because with the first Cold Steel, because you're in the kind of school setting as such, it's more of an upbeat poppy soundtrack with some of the when you're going around Trista, or if you're doing the jobs for the likes of Toa, but like the battle music as well. The other piece of music which always I can't remember the title of it off the top of my head, but when you first start Trails of Cold Steel and you come into the scene where there's the tanks all firing at each other, that track is just outstanding. And then they added that back into Trails of Cold Steel 4, but they used the orchestrated version, the Super Ultimate Edition. If I remember, they did like a remix of the first thing. So
how did you get into metal music and JRPGs? Like, that's something I've been curious about.
Okay, right. Metal music is something. So my music, getting into music when I was younger, I started off listening to the likes of Eminem, weirdly enough. But I was brought up in a household where the music my mum would always play would be the likes of Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, The Cult, So I grew up with sort of rock music. Then Limp Bizkit started becoming more mainstream, and Papa Roach came out and Linkin Park came out when I was growing up. So from there, I got into bands, started learning guitar myself, started playing in bands and everything. But my taste started getting heavier and heavier and heavier, to where the point now is like my favorite sort of metal band is probably Periphery. I'm going to actually see Periphery down in London with James from The Review Ting.
Could you send me some Periphery songs, please? I have never heard of them before.
Oh, you will absolutely love Periphery. The guitarist Bulb actually is a big Final Fantasy VII fan, and he's actually done some metal covers of the bombing mission, and he's done his own rendition of, I think it was either the battle music or the world map music. So I'll find that for you.
That'll be really
Um,
cool sounding. For me, I got into metal because my mom, she listened to kind of punk and new wave, like that was her thing when I was growing up,
mhm,
plus the Beatles. So,
mhm,
rock, metal, punk.
yeah.
I grew up
And
with it, and my taste didn't really well, they did evolve a lot beyond that because my music taste, like you, got heavier and heavier and heavier, mostly because I wanted to just annoy people when I was a teenager.
utterly class. I mean,
Because
like,
I was the quiet teenager that no one listened to and had an explosive temper, and my little way of rebelling was I'm going to play the loudest fucking music I can find.
as you do.
Have you ever heard
In-
of Job for a Cowboy? They are one of my favorites.
oh yes, everyone's heard of Job for a Cowboy. Back in like 2006, like it was going down a roller coaster. Was it the dun 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 dun, 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 and then the high pitched scream? Ah, I can't do that. But yeah, I know. Was it embodiment of? Oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's been that long since I've heard that song. But yes, I do know them. Um, in part of your other question about how did I get into JRPGs?
Yeah.
Right. So, uh, Final Fantasy VII was my first. Well, was it? No, my first sort of playing of a JRPG was Pokemon, but I don't really class that. Final Fantasy VII was probably the first proper JRPG I played.
Hmm.
And that was my dad actually picked it up on the PlayStation. I think he only played it once, and then me and my little brother took over it. Um, but I played like some Final Fantasy 8, 9. But see, when the PS2 generation came out, I didn't really go for 10 or anything. My little brain was like, oh, there's no world map, blah, 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 blah. So I kind of went more into your casual gaming, like sort of your Tony Hawk and WWE games, etc.
For me, it was
Um,
definitely NHL. That was like a big one for me on the PlayStation 2. Same with NASCAR.
You see, I've seen NASCAR live in the States. I don't understand NFL, but I have to support the Patriots because I've got family over in Boston. So that's an unpopular take there.
Nice. I was talking
um,
about hockey with NHL, but
oh, right. Okay.
also,
Yeah.
weren't
Sorry.
you going to ask me what my hot take was in JRPGs?
Oh, yes. Actually, yes. Right. Hot takes of JRPGs because this is recently blown up on Twitter or X. Uh, Friend of the channel, Gaming Shelf, recently put out a question which has had 5 million views, and it was, "What is your JRPG hot take?" So, what is your hot take on JRPGs that you think no one will agree with?
I like but don't love Final Fantasy VII Remake.
That's actually fair enough. Absolutely fair enough with that one because at the end of the day, a lot of people seen were wanting kind of a one-to-one remake, um, and not like changes to the story, which, without going into spoilers, there is some.
See, I
In
like the story changes. It's just I couldn't get on with the combat. That was my main issue, but it looks like they've sorted out the issues I've had with the combat for Rebirth, so I'm actually very excited for it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Rebirth. I don't really have a hot take myself when it comes to JRPGs. I think uh, the problem is that I have sometimes is some. I'm trying to word it in my head to get it out there. I think sometimes some games could be hyped up a wee bit too much, and I've played them and gone, I don't understand the hype. Like, for example, Octopath Traveler, because I'm looking at it on my shelf. Like, Octopath Traveler was like revolutionized with the HD 2D graphics, which is amazing. You know, it is. But when I played it, although it looked pretty, the combat,
It
combat
felt
was all
clunky.
right. Yeah, but what I also felt was it was so grindy. Like, it just, I got to, like, I was really enjoying it, and then I just hit a massive brick wall. It's like, I really just couldn't be arsed going back and trying to just grind all these different characters. I do have a second playthrough that I'm trying to actually do more with because I've read more of a guide of, who you should start off with, who is a completely different character from who I started off with. So, I mean, that's my only real hot take is sometimes don't believe the hype of some games.
I know exactly what you mean.
So, Colin, thank you for coming on today to tell us about JRPGs and you. Well, JRPGs and me. So, can you please plug your socials?
Sure thing. So you can find me on X as Leafer90TTV, Twitch Leafer90, and Instagram Leafer90TTV, and of course on YouTube as Colin Lack.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being my first guest on JRPGs and me. Now, if you like what you're hearing and seeing on the channel, please help me grow it by liking, sharing, and subscribing. And if you want to be kept up to date with everything Chicken Fillets, please hit that notification bell and please make sure to pop over to Colin's YouTube and subscribe to him as well. So this has been Chicken Fillets and this has been Colin Lapp. And until next time, chatty bye.